Thank you, Ryan. What an extraordinary message in music. And that ties in with this month's power. We have been journeying over the past 11 months. 11 months. Almost a year. We've revisited the teachings of the co-founder of this ministry, Charles Fillmore, and his lessons, the book entitled The 12 Powers. And we've acknowledged these spiritual powers that we all have. We have them. They are within us, and they are here to serve us and to work for us and to help us lead and live a healthy, happy, prosperous, successful life. And as we become more attuned to them and spiritualize them, they will work for us in a very phenomenal kind of way. This month of November, we are focusing on the power of elimination, renunciation. You got it. And the disciple that corresponds with the spiritual power is Thaddeus. And Thaddeus we don't know that much about Thaddeus. Not much is mentioned about Thaddeus in biblical literature other than some Bible scholars suspect that Thaddeus might have authored the book of Jude. Some says Jude authored that, but we do know that this Thaddeus center is within us. And if you place your hand here on your abdomen, your abdominal area, this is your elimination renunciation center. There's a color associated with this power, and it's the color of brown or russet. So we are carrying or wearing something brown and russet all for the duration of this month to remind us that we have this spiritual power within us. And it is our ability to release, to remove, to denounce, to deny, and to let go anything and everything that is no. Do you know that you have the power to release anything that's no longer serving you? Yes. Who knew that you had that power? You have the power to release anything and everything, anyone and everyone who's no longer serving you. That is your power, our power, my power. Our affirmation is, I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. Together, I release anything and everything that no longer serves my unfolding good. And as we consider this particular power, we understand that renunciation is twofold in nature. The first aspect is it helps us to eliminate the errors or mistakes of life, all of the stuff that we often accrue, even in the soul. If you attended the Healing Soul morning session yesterday with Master Zimna, we were reminded that even at a soul level, we can accrue stuff. There's residue of either not only this life, but previous life that gathers right in what Joseph Murphy calls the subconscious phase of our being. Then the second aspect of this aspect of the nature of this spiritual power is that it expands the good. And that's what we focused on last week. We talked about expanding the good through gratitude living, or living with gratitude. And we issued a challenge last week. It was a challenge of 21 days of just simply gratitude living, complaint-free living. Now, how many of you at least made it to Monday? All right, give yourself a hand if you made it to. Now, some of the other session didn't even make it until the end of service. I'm like, come on, y'all, just 20 minutes. We said 21 days of no complaining. 21 days of complaint-free living. And for every one complaint, we were encouraged to what? Replace every one complaint with 7 gratitudes. Now, how many of you found yourself affirming all week long? Be honest. Tell the truth to stay in church. You've had to do those 7. You probably had to do it this morning. That's okay. And this is so important because we understand the power of giving our attention and focusing our attention on the stuff of life that really makes no sense at all. It just doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. We give it our attention, and in our truth, we teach that wherever the attention goes, the energy flows, and that our attention becomes the oxygen for the thing or things or stuff to live in our life, world, and affairs. It's only there because we have given it life. And if we choose to take back the life, that thing will disappear because we've taken back our power. We understand the power of giving our attention to only the things that we desire. And there's that part of us, each one of us. We have both of those natures within ourselves, that aspect of ourselves in this human experience that always seeks to look at the illusion and identify that as reality. But it isn't. It's only the illusion. But then there's the truth of us, the essence of us, that only knows the pure essence of spirit. And we look to find that out. We understand that the importance is that whatever we lift up in consciousness will create our experiences. The master teacher said it this way. He says, "What if I be lifted up? If I be lifted up, I will draw all men, women, children unto me." And the spiritual meaning to that, or the esoteric meaning to that particular passage, suggests that whatever we lift up in consciousness will draw all corresponding manifestations unto us. If we lift up any idea that's unlike the truth of God by God, it has the power, the drawing, attracting, recreating power to create or to show up in your life, world, and affairs. We lift it up in consciousness, we activate that spiritual principle. If you ever studied the book The Secret or saw the movie The Secret, it's based on this one spiritual principle. And it is the law, the principle of attraction. That when we lift it up in mind, then the universe begins to do, as Ernest Holmes says, galvanize. The universe began to conspire, to work on our behalf to bring that thing into manifestation. Does it make sense? So as we consider the second part, last week we talked about the power of gratitude. For the next couple of minutes, I want to focus on the power of letting go. There is so much power in letting go. In fact, letting go is one of the keys, essential keys to a happy life. The ability to simply let go and be present, be available in what I think it's Paul Tillich calls the eternal now. And standing in this moment, embracing what is now, and not allowing the two thieves of life, the two thieves of seeming time, the thief of the past and the thief of the future, to rob us of the gift in this present moment. As we consider this particular idea, I was drawn to the great words of that great, the words of that great theologian, who I love to quote, Oprah Winfrey. I know I'm not the only one who quotes Oprah. And she says that, listen, we're talking about the power of letting go and, the elimination, renunciation. It embodies there's ability to expand the good, but we expand the good by letting go of the stuff. She says, be thankful for what you have. You'll end up having more. If you concentrate on what you don't have and what's not going good in your life, you will never, ever have enough or experience anything different. Friends, there's so much truth in this simple statement. The power of letting go. We all know life to be an extraordinary adventure. An adventure that has its highs and lows, an adventure that often carries us on this journey. And sometimes it's good, sometimes we get in some stuff, sometimes we get out of it. There are days that we give a lot of our time just working on the stuff that we encounter in life. But it becomes so much easier when we lean to divine wisdom. When we let go of our, tendencies of wanting to dominate, manipulate, and control. You know how we like to do in our humanness. But then begin to lean, as the sacred text scripture says, lean not to thy own understanding, but in all of your ways acknowledge the presence and power of God within you, and that great spirit will direct you on your path. When we choose to lean not to our human understanding based on our five senses, we make judgments based on what we can see, taste, feel, touch, smell, and we call that reality, but that's only the illusion. But when we turn within and seek the guidance of spirit, it leads us, as David says, along green pastures and still waters. There's an affirmation that I was given years ago when I remember I was hungry. I was just hungry, not on a physical level. And maybe some of you might be able to relate to this. I was working in corporate America. It was a new job. It was a wonderful position. I was making a lot more than my age. A wonderful position of working with business owners and emerged businesses. And I reached a point where I was so hungry. Very active in the Unity Church at the time, attending every class, going to everything, working with the minister. But there was something, I was longing for something, and I did not know what it was. And I began to have one-on-one conversations with the minister. That was Reverend Ernestine Hackler. And I'm like, I want something, but I don't know what it is. My soul is longing for it. It's longing for something, and I could not identify it. And she says, well, Jack, if you're really serious, there's a prayer that you can pray that will open up that door for you. I'm like, really? I'm like, well, give it to me. She says, but listen, before you begin this process, make sure you understand what you're saying, because it will take you truly on a journey. Simple words. It was a prayer of surrender, a prayer of letting go, yet it was a prayer of affirmation. I surrender to thy living spirit of truth. How simple is that? But she says, when you begin to pray that prayer and you mean it, your life will change. And friends, it did. It wasn't even a good 2 months later, I was called to leave what I was doing and focus full-time in the church. This prayer of surrender opens up the door to new beginnings and new possibilities. But it calls us to be willing to let go of that which we have found so much security or comfort in. And sometimes it's a false sense of security and false sense of comfort. Mary Kupferle, one of the great Unity writers, and this was one of the authors that really led me to the deeper understanding of unity. In her book, God Will See You Through, gives a spiritual exercise for letting go. Just listen to this, and if you even want to close your eyes for a moment, just for a moment, close your eyes, okay? Take a deep breath in. It says, take time to be quiet, she says, to be still and contemplate the truth that God's love is right with you, right there with you. That God's light is now shining throughout your mind to reveal what you need to see and know. Listen within and let God's wisdom gently turn your thoughts over and over until the questions become answers and the doubts become newborn faith. You will see that everything has been and is working for your good when you simply let go. Now you can open your eyes. Come on. Take a deep breath in and let go. It says this is one of the great discoveries of life, to let go. To let go of all of the stuff, to hold on to the truth. One thing that we're called to let go of is frustration and agitation. To let go of impatience. How many of you need to let that go? Be honest. Let go of impatience. It reminds me of the teacher, the kindergarten teacher who was working with her kindergartner. His name was Little Johnny, not Jackie, Johnny. Johnny needed help putting on his boots. And he says, Miss Kathy, will you please help me put on my boots? Miss Kathy went over and she tried to help Johnny. She was pushing and he was pulling, and she was pushing and pulling and trying to get on the boots. And finally, sure enough, she was able to help him get his boots on. And all of a sudden he looked down and says, Miss Kathy, they're on the wrong feet. You need to change, they're on the wrong foot. And so she says, oh my goodness, Johnny. She went back struggling to pull off the boots. And she changed the boots around and got them back on, struggling, working up a sweat. Then he says, Miss Kathy, these aren't my boots. And she says, with all that she had, she wanted to, oh my goodness, little Johnny. So she went back helping little Johnny pull off the boots, struggling to get the boots. She's pushing, he's pulling, she's pushing and pulling and pushing, trying to get the boots off. She gets the boots off and he says, Miss Kathy, these are my brother boots, but my mother made me wear them today. So there she goes again, helping little Johnny to get back on, struggling to get the boots back on, frustrated, agitated, trying to help little Johnny get the boots back on, and finally, boots back on and pushing and pulling. And then she says, Johnny, well, where are your mittens? He says, Miss Kathy, they're in my boots. So So, life is like that at times, isn't it? We're pushing and pulling. We're pushing and pulling and pushing. And at times getting nowhere. But when we choose to just pause, say, God, I'm going to take my hands off of it. As Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, not my will, the human will, the will that is limited in what it can see and do and feel, but thy will, thy perfect will, thy exceptional will be done and fulfilled. I don't have to be in control of it. Isn't that good to know? We don't have to be in control of it. But know that wisdom, the omniscience of the universe is within us, working with us, and the same presence, the same power that was at work in the master teacher Jesus, that was at work in the Buddha, that was at work in the Krishna, that was at work in Confucius, that same spirit. It's not a different one. It's not another one. It's the same power. That same power is at work in each one of us. The only difference is that they recognized it. They stood in it. They lived from it. And they manifested it. The same power is at work within us right now. The other thing that we're called to do is release the limited idea that we've attached to ourselves and began to affirm truly that I am a spiritual being. Now I changed the words to fit my growth. I am a spiritual being living in a spiritual universe, governed by spiritual law. And the Spirit is showing up right now. It takes letting go of the complaints. Oh, yeah. See, the complaints weigh you down. It's low vibration. It brings the energy all the way down. You got to free yourself. Let go of the complaints of life and grab hold of the goodness of God. And you'll see how that goodness will keep showing up and showing up and showing up and showing up in ways that you never even imagined. God bless you.